Welcome to the Lounge Lizards podcast. So good to have you here. It's a leisure and lifestyle podcast founded on our love of premium cigars, as well as whiskey, travel, food, work, and whatever else we feel like getting into. My name is Gizmo, and tonight I'm joined by Rooster, Puba, Pagoda, and Bam Bam. And our plan is to smoke a cigar, drink some whiskey, talk about life, and of course, have some laughs. So take this as your 50-second official invitation to join us and become a card-carrying lounge lizard. Plan to meet us here once a week. We're going to smoke a Cuban cigar tonight, share our thoughts on it, and give you our formal lizard rating. We welcome Dan from Cigar Salute for a deep dive on counterfeit Cuban cigars. We discuss my purchase of fake Cubans from a trusted retailer and how to avoid making the same mistake. And we review the current state of Habanos S.A., all among a variety of other things for the next 2 hours. So sit back, get your favorite drink, light up a cigar, and enjoy as we smoke an aged Saint Luis Rey Regios. A Corona Extra tonight from Saint Luis Rey. From Cuba on the podcast, a 48 ring gauge by 5-inch cigar. The Cuban factory name of this Vitola is a Hermosos number 4. And this, boys, is the only cigar that St. Luis Rey makes in regular production, which I know
that's ridiculous.
Our guest here, Dan, thinks is a sin, and I think is a sin. And I can't wait to smoke this thing tonight.
And by the way, and Dan loves Hermosos.
I know he does. I know he does.
I don't think there's a single bad Hermosos number 4 Vitola that Cuba makes.
Yeah,
you know, if you look at them by Vitola, every cigar in that size that Cuba offers, in my opinion, is a special cigar.
Wow.
You know,
yeah.
I like to learn about
the
those.
Schwa Supreme. That's it. That's a Hermosos, right?
Yes, sir. The Vegas Robena Famosos, the H. Upman Connoisseur number 1.
Yeah.
What else do we have? The Por Loriñaga Picadores, which I'm kind of on the fence about, but a lot of people love that cigar.
Well, this is the first time. I haven't had this cigar before.
Oh, you haven't?
No, I've never had
I
this.
have. It's good, man.
This is my first time having this. I was
good.
telling Dan last night, I've never had this cigar. I was really excited to do this on the pod today and with Dan. So
Hopefully
Nice.
you get some fruit notes out of this.
I hope so.
Apparently
boys.
that's what it's known for.
Let's cut this thing. See, we're getting on the cold draw of the wrapper. St. Luis Rey. So we're welcoming on tonight a very close friend of the Lizards. Puba and Dan connected. Dan is the proprietor, the curator of Cigar Salute, a fantastic online resource for the Cuban cigar community, the cigar community at large. And we'll get into specifically why we decided to ask Dan to come on. Very kindly, he decided to join us about some fake Cuban cigars that happened in our world. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, we're very, very happy to have you on, Dan. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me, gentlemen.
Got it.
Yeah,
Honestly, the cold draw on this is fantastic.
Wide open
Fantastic.
draw for me.
It's very good. I'm getting a lot of dry fruit on this guy.
Yeah. Dried fruit, a little bit of a grassy note.
A bit, yeah. Yeah, I get that. It's delicious.
Beautiful.
You guys are smoking on 2016s, if I recall correctly, right?
Yeah, OMS June 16 is our box code.
Yep.
How's
Yeah,
how's the band on yours, Dan? Because some of the SLR Regios, like the middle part, like the gold emblem, has a lot of detail, and sometimes it's kind of like blurry.
This one's definitely on the blurrier side. This is a ORG November 2015. The last one I have from this particular batch. This I find usually they're not typically overly detailed on the embossing. Sometimes I do notice better embossing than others from batch to batch, but mostly on the special edition ones, you know, like the regionals seem to have the high quality embossing. I'm not sure about the regular production ones, though. I have to look at my more current boxes.
Yeah. I haven't looked personally. I haven't looked at the band in detail on this particular cigar. Probably because I haven't smoked that many of
There
them.
is some detail on this one, looks
Yeah.
like.
But there's some. But
It's
I see what
definitely
you're
muddled.
saying. It's muted.
It's muddled,
It's
yeah.
muted. It's muddled. Yeah.
Yep.
Just like
Yeah.
a crest or something, right?
All right, can we smoke Gizmo now, please?
Let's light this
Let's
thing,
light
boys.
it up.
The Saint Luis Rey Regios from Cuba. Again, it's a 48 ring gauge cigar by 5 inches. And very, very excited. This is my first time smoking this cigar tonight.
So Dan, I didn't know who you were until I saw your face on the camera. But I know you. I know you now. I'm a fan of your posts.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, speaking of being a fan of Dan's content, that's kind of how I stumbled upon him, but indirectly through Dr. Joe. And the Dr. Joe show, for the listeners out there, I reckon. I mean, is his content getting slightly dated at this point? Maybe, but it's pretty educational if you're interested in Cuban cigars. He was a really passionate guy. It comes through in his podcast, so it's kind of entertaining because it's just him, and sometimes he's just yelling at the camera.
Are his
And you're just, you're just like, oh my God, he's like, I can't believe that this is going on. But anyway,
are his videos still up?
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
God, I'm gonna look them up.
So I really
Yes.
enjoyed watching them because it's this quirky but informative long form thing. And so Dan was kind of inspired to do through like subsequent communications after we connected. I started watching Cigar Salute, and Dan's content, I think, or how he approached it, was somewhat inspired, and correct me if I'm wrong, by Dr. Joe.
Oh, for sure. It absolutely was. I feel like something like cigars, it deserves an in-depth, comprehensive discussion. How could you go through something as complex as the cigar world without taking time to do it? And how could you teach somebody or try to convey a point or educate without going into detail and giving people the information that is either scattered around the internet in all different places, and maybe people don't know where to look, or somebody that's just coming into the cigar hobby and delivering a comprehensive piece of media to them for them to consume and study and learn from. So that's just my style. I like to be detailed, thorough, and I like to take my time.
Yeah.
And we do the same thing. I mean, we do a long form podcast here,
And I love that about you guys.
Hour and a half.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
So let me just say for a second, this cigar is unbelievable,
Dude, it's a flavor bomb right off the bat.
I mean, it's like potpourri.
It's ridiculous.
It's fruity. There's a little hay.
I hope it continues.
I mean, this is off to a phenomenal start.
Oh yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, mine's good. It's it's very at this point. I mean, it's very easygoing. It's got a lot of body, which is super nice. Yeah, it's very enjoyable.
Right?
Great combustion.
Pagoda,
Good.
you
Yeah,
gotta
good.
love this one, huh?
Yeah, I'm
Definitely
loving
good
it.
construction.
I'm loving it.
Yeah.
This is, and
Great flavor.
now I feel like I
Is it-
might have made a mistake having a sip of the whiskey because, I think sometimes the whiskey can overpower the flavors. So I'm just going to keep smoking.
The
for a bit.
construction on it is actually
I think it's
nicer.
Superb.
It's
The
Superb.
wrapper's
nicer than
beautiful.
what would be expected for these, maybe.
So I had a Juan Lopez #1 this afternoon. I thought that was like a fantastic cigar.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the Juan Lopez #1.
Can I
and,
say?
And this after that, I mean, I didn't think the Juan Lopez could be beat.
Yeah. This is what a
This
start.
is up there.
It is a
Holy
little
shit.
reminiscent of the one.
It is.
A bit.
It is.
Well, the Juan Lopez can be beat. I mean,
Oh yeah.
No, I mean, Juan Lopez #1 that I had today was, for some reason, like, how you get like, I like it better than the #2.
Of
But
course.
the one that I had today was
Yeah.
exceptional in that size,
100%.
in the afternoon setting. It
Yeah.
was just, it was really good. Very satisfying.
Dan, how's your smoking?
One thing I really love about the Saint Luis Rey Regio is I always find like a strong floral component in the
Yep.
cigar, and that's something I love about Cuban tobacco, and I feel like Saint Luis Rey does it really well.
Yeah,
And,
it's really nice.
Dan's singing my song right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just too
Well,
bad
you're
they
right,
only
though.
have
It
the
is floral.
size.
It is
Yeah.
floral. I mean, you can. It is.
Yeah, so great suggestion, Dan, that we pulled this out tonight. Very nice.
You know what I'm drinking with this is herbal tea, which is actually like pairing nice with it, which sounds really not that cool, and it's not not what I'm usually
It's a
doing.
little out of character.
A little out of character for me, considering how much I drink.
It's refined.
Alcohol.
It's refined.
Usually, I'm knee deep in some cognac by now or some scotch. God damn it!
hey, there's whatever works for you, you know.
So I guess let's get into it, boys. We're coming up on Halloween. I was telling Dan, and scary holiday, right? Spooky.
You got tricked or treated?
You get tricked or you get treated. Not only did I get tricked, but is there anything scarier or spookier than purchasing a
Hell
fake
no.
box of Cohiba Robustos from a trusted retailer? I got duped, man. And the only reason that I realized I had gotten duped was because I saw the conversation that Dan and Greg were having about these serial numbers on these boxes that were coming in that were wrong. And I went into my Tupperware and I pulled the box out and I said, holy shit, I got a fake box. Looked amazing. Everything about it looked great. And I called up Dan. I said, Dan, I'm going to send you this box. I need you to put it under the microscope. And Dan did a full investigation of it, put it under the scope, and kind of blew up the internet a little bit on Reddit and elsewhere. Tell us a little bit about what you found in my box, how this whole thing started with this specific ring of really good counterfeit cigars, how they ended up in these trusted retailers, and I guess let's start there.
Sure. This very well done counterfeit cigar, this style of counterfeit cigar, it's really kind of been replacing the the old tropes about glass tops and really janky looking fake bands. Like over the last couple of years, you've been seeing it more and more. That with counterfeit cigars, they're getting better and better at duplicating the real deal as far as aesthetics go. More often than not now, I'm seeing scenarios where it appears that the bands are either genuine bands that were stolen and made it into the black market somehow, or they are absolute perfect copies, which I don't believe that they are. I personally think that they're stolen genuine bands. Because,
so like out the back door of the Cohiba factory, like stolen, like what does that mean exactly?
Well, that's certainly possible. If you think about the economy of Cuba, especially right now, it's certainly not too far of a stretch to think about, a handful of, bundles of bands making their way out the back door because they can mean serious money for somebody, if they know what to do with them.
Yeah.
And, the other thing that I'm seeing is that they're using, with the increased accessibility of custom rolled Cuban cigars, it really isn't hard to get a bundle of Cuban Robustos and slap a bundle of Cohiba bands on them, and now you have transformed a $2 custom roll into a $25 to $60 cigar. And the consumer that winds up with this box, they light the cigar up and they get that unmistakable Cuban flavor where they know it's Cuban tobacco, but they're not getting the cigar that they paid for.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, so, a lot of things can run through somebody's mind at that point where it's, oh, is this, just a bad batch? Was it, were the cigars poorly stored, or does just need more time?
Are they a little sick or whatever?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they're very, very smart about how they can fool people. And the devil is often in the details in the way that you catch these bogus examples. as far as these specific counterfeits go, I originally stumbled upon them probably back in January.
Wow.
One of my other viewers, a gentleman named Chad, he contacted me and sent me an email with some photos of a couple of boxes of cigars that he had purchased from Finest Cuban Cigars.
Right.
And I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but about 3.5 years ago, I actually did an expose on Finest Cuban Cigars also.
Yep. And ironically, that was Dr. Joe's favorite retailer back in the day. Remember? But
Joe had a. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. No, he had that. It was, but I mean, it seems like things have changed over time in defense of Dr. Joe. But anyway, you would know more about that.
So this guy Chad, he sent me photos of a box of Monte Cristo Supremos, the edition limitada.
Yeah.
And he sent photos of a box of Cohiba Talisman. So the first thing I noticed was that the packaging looked flawless. The Monte Cristo Supremos, they come with that graphic outer cardboard shell and everything, and then it has that nice yellow lacquered box and everything, and the packaging, like, to me, it looked legitimate. Or if it wasn't from Habanos directly, then it was purchased from the same maker that makes the actual box, because it looked like you would not be able to differentiate between the box that you got from Finest Cuban Cigars or the one that you got from La Casa del Habano in terms of visuals,
right,
and whatnot. All the paperwork was there and everything, like the little placards and the Habanos rice paper with the storage and care instructions on it and whatnot. Everything that you would want to see was there.
Right.
But a couple of things caught my eye. And this is a tool that some of us use when authenticating cigars that a lot of people aren't privy to, and that's using the serial number and comparing it against the box date to check for accuracy in the sequence of the serial number.
So the serial number, for listeners, by the way, is when you get a box of Cuban cigars and you see a picture of it, there's a white label that comes across the top of the lid and down the side of the box of cigars with a barcode on it and a serial number on it that I think is what, 10 digits or 12 digits, Dan?
12
digits. And then that's what Dan is talking about, referring to comparing to the box code.
Right. And the prefixes, Dan, is what you're talking about on the serial, which indicates the year. Right?
Yeah, it doesn't always fit neatly into a specific year. Like, the first 6 digits really are the ones that it narrows it down to roughly, like, a 12-month period of time, but it doesn't necessarily line up perfectly with a year.
With the calendar, right.
Like, they don't say January to January is like every serial starts with the first 4 digits are 0. So, they don't say 00005 is 2021.
Right.
Because it started in like September 2020.
Right.
But it is sequential and it does go up over time. So one thing to remember is that you can sometimes have an older box of cigars with a newer serial number in terms of sequence, but you can never have a newer box of cigars with an older serial number.
Right.
Which is exactly what happened here, right?
Yes. The serial number on this box of Monte Cristo Supremos suggested that it was that it would have a box date from either late 2018 or early 2019, and the box date was October 2020.
Right, so it was a 3 or a 4 probably on there.
It was, I believe, it started with 00042.
4, right. 4.
So exactly like you said, it started with the 4. So having that big of a difference in terms of versus the box date and the serial number, that to me is a red flag.
Yeah.
And Chad had taken it upon himself. He had a fluorescent black light, and he also had a microscope. And he was the one actually who pointed out on the warranty seal, if you shine either a UV flashlight or a fluorescent black light on the warranty seal, you will see in UV ink, you'll see a coat of arms stamp in the center of the seal.
Yeah.
He was the one who pointed out. He said, "What are these digits here?" And there was 6 numbers on this UV stamp. And I said, "Those aren't supposed to be there. If you look at a UV stamp on a legitimate box of cigars, that UV stamp does not have any digits present in it." And after taking a look at it for a few minutes, I realized what had happened. If you look at the warranty seal on the box of cigars, all the way on the left-hand side of the seal, just right of where the barcode sits,
Right.
you'll see that same coat of arms that's shown in the UV stamp.
Right.
But on that coat of arms that's actually printed on the warranty seal, there's a little window in the lower left-hand corner for the first half of that box's serial number.
Right.
And then if you go to the other side of the warranty seal on the right, you'll see another image of a bunch of workers in the field. And in the same spot in the lower left-hand corner of that window, you'll see another area with the last 6 digits of that box's serial number.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So I realized that these guys had copied the UV stamp and used the actual coat of arms on the warranty seal as a template.
Wow.
Wow.
There was just there was too many discrepancies that were just too far out of bounds with that old Cuba being Cuba, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Right.
We say it a lot. We say it a lot.
Yeah, it's too many. These are different types of discrepancies than like a band.
Yeah, a band being muddled.
No, yeah, a band or I'm sorry, a ribbon,
yeah.
like the wrong ribbon being around a bundle of cigars in a cabinet or something, or in a varnished box. Do you know what I mean? Like that.
Exactly.
That's the
So it's not happening just with Cohibas then. You're It's also happening with a seeing it lot of on different Monte stuff. Cristos.
Yeah.
Is there any other brand that you're seeing like counterfeiting going on?
I've seen probably over half of the brands in the Habanos catalog
God, that is scary,
copied
man.
with this particular style of counterfeit. Whoever's responsible for these, I've seen a bunch of different brands with the same defects.
So
and
it's like,
that's
what do you?
go ahead,
I'm sorry. What do you do? I mean, what do you carry like a black light with you every time you purchase a box of Cohibas, or I mean, how do you prevent something like that? Like other than buying only from LCDH and I mean, we're not privy to
trusted sellers.
Not to interrupt
trusted
everyone.
sellers, but Monte Fortuna, for the longest time was.
Yeah,
a
I don't want to
trusted
interrupt
seller.
everybody, but being a fairly novice cigar guy, not like everyone else in this room, it would be discouraging for me to want to pursue purchasing Cubans.
Yeah.
Hearing all of this.
Yeah. And Dan said that to me the other night. He's
Yeah.
in the same boat.
I mean, what do you do? How do you know we're not smoking counterfeits right now?
Well, and this is where, and I want to get back to the cigar because this is delicious, by the way.
It is.
But what's interesting, Dan, about this whole thing is that, the first thing that I would say to someone who asked that question, and probably you would say, is just know your vendor and know who you're buying from. And that's where it really got crazy, is that these ended up in the supply chain and the distribution of some really reputable vendors. namely the one that I purchased from, who will kind of lay it out here because they not only admitted it, but apologized for it on your thread on Reddit, which, by the way, I'm going to share in the episode description of this, so folks can go click the link in the episode description. They can see Dan's post, see all the photos, see everything he's talking about. So we're not flying blind here. I know, we're an audio podcast, but click the link in the episode description and you can see Dan's investigation and his post, and then everything that Monty Fortuna came up with after that. But that's the thing that's scary to me, is it getting into the retail chain of these.
What's also scary is that does Monty Fortuna even know that they're selling the counterfeit boxes?
That's a question.
It could be just coming in from.
They may not know.
A distributor could be mixing them in. Who knows?
All right, let's hold on that for a second. Let's hold on that while Dan thinks about how he wants to approach that question.
Listen, you guys got to see these emails that people are sending us. Greg and I. First off, Monty Fortuna should not be selling Cuban cigars. It's just simple as that. These guys were told, as Gizmo well knows, they were told months ago they had a problem on their hands, and they chose to thumb their noses at us and
gaslight us.
They all read from the same playbook, brother. They really do. Oh, well, the things you're discussing aren't in the official Habanos authentication processes, so therefore that's not a valid argument. Or we only source from licensed Habanos distributors, or we only source from reputable distributors, and we have been in this business for X amount of years. They all say the same lines, and that they all backpedal and they all lie. It's whenever they get caught like this. The mea culpa was a little shocking when it came to Monty Fortuna.
Yeah,
but they're still lying.
Yep.
Okay.
The thing that bums me out, Dan, is it took customers like me, right? We all were going through this. Way more folks than I do who got a box like I did from Monty Fortuna, and who emailed and were gaslit about the authenticity of the box, and they saying it's real, and it was essentially that we were full of shit. And not only that, to get a refund, they wanted us to pay for the shipping for the box to go back, for them to then evaluate whether or not they were going to give us a refund. And it took you months later blowing them up on Reddit for them to come out and say, you know what, you guys are right. Now we'll fix this, simply because of the bad PR, which that's a good demonstration of bad faith in my eyes.
Yeah, and I'd like to just add something real quick. And this is a retailer who, by the way, sponsored what's that guy's
Cigar
show?
Obsession.
Cigar Obsession. I forget the gentleman's name.
Brian
Glenn. And the guy did his reviews or whatever, but they're actually like advertising as a retailer here in the US. And I always felt like their prices fucking sucked. Pardon my French, but they're
lying.
The prices sucked, and it was for the guy who ordered an occasional. I don't know anyone in our community. When I say our community, like
our small
niche of Cuban cigar smokers that we hang with live and virtually or whatever, that really frequent Monty Fortuna. Like you would, if you found something there and it was a deal,
only occasionally,
maybe, but the prices always sucked. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, am
I wrong?
Well, you're not wrong, but look at me. I got caught up in this. I'm not to the level of maybe you guys, you and Rooster and Dan are, as far as acquiring and knowing your shit about Cuban cigars, but I'm pretty damn good, and I'm a quick learner. And I got duped big time by this because they had I don't know what the box code was, Dan. It was something 2020 of these Cohiba Robustas. Partagas Factory, UAO, or I forget what it was.
TUA.
Yeah, TUA 20. And I was like, shit, okay. I have a 2-year head start on the resting process on these cigars. I figured, I'm going to wait 5 years to smoke these Robustas. I threw them in my Tupperware, but that's why I bought them.
Yeah.
But, Poopa's exactly right. Like none of us would have normally pulled that trigger, but they enticed me in with the box code, and of course, here we are now.
Yeah, but had you not seen this come up on the group, you would have never.
5 years from now, I would have been smoking those Robustos, wondering what was going on.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get back to the cigar. We're coming to the end of the first third here, boys, on the Saint Luis Rey
Fabulous
Regios.
cigar.
What are you guys thinking?
It's fabulous.
I love it. Dan, great suggestion, man.
Thank you, guys. Can I just get a survey amongst you guys?
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the artwork on this particular dress box? Is probably in my top 3 Cuban cigar artwork, as far as the beauty of the outer lid and everything, just that imagery and whatnot. The lithograph is gorgeous to me.
Pooba's critiquing it right now.
Yeah. It's beautiful. The palm trees. It's very nice. The palm trees.
A little tidbit, actually. The cigar company, My Father, if you look at their logo, the My Father logo, and on some of their bands like the Bijou and whatnot, on the left and the right, in like the center of the band or the center of the logo, on the left, they poached from the inner, if you open up the box of the Saint Luis Rey, if you open up the box and look at the image that's on the paper,
right?
They poached that image of the workers in the field.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it right now, actually, with Pagoda.
Yeah,
here
and
it is here.
And then on the right, they poached part of the Cuba artwork.
Wow.
The best.
I always thought that was a little interesting. I tried to bring it up to them on Instagram, and they never answered me.
They gave the middle finger to Cigar Salute.
All right, I have a trivia question, but it's so easy.
Go ahead.
But we're talking about cigar. Dan, you can't answer because you know the question. We've talked about it on the pod before, but who's the first? What was the first market to have artwork on their boxes?
You say Vegas Robania?
Oh,
wrong.
We went over this.
We did. I don't remember.
Oh, I don't remember either.
Upman.
Wrong.
I think it was Upman.
Yes.
Wrong. I think it's from Ramon Alones.
Alones.
Oh,
Ramon
okay.
Alones, right?
Okay.
Am I right, Dan?
I think he said
Ding,
that.
ding, 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 ding.
Trivia night with Dan.
That's a cool fact.
Another cool fact I saw, Dan, on Cuban Cigar website was that this Marca was imported exclusively into the UK market from the 1940s until 1993.
Wow.
It was an exclusive UK Marca from Cuba.
I'll tell you, it's a delicious cigar.
It's very good, Dan.
This is
good. Really delicious.
I'm glad you guys are enjoying it.
It's so flavorful, but it's
the
still
fruit,
kind of medium.
The fruit notes, the dry fruit dissipated a little bit. It's leveling out nicely. It's smooth and creamy.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I think, picked up in a little bit of pepper a bit.
You can also get some leather.
Yeah.
You get a little bit leather, toasted tobacco.
Yeah.
It's a long finish too.
The fruit is still kind of comes through,
a bit, right.
It's like an apple, like a green
like
apple.
Yeah.
But that floral note still remains.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
A very complex cigar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dan, back to the abyss of this shit show with these fake Cubans. So my question for you, really the question that I haven't asked you yet, even as we've spoken leading up to this, is how do you guys figure that these boxes ended up in legitimate supply chains for these retailers?
Desperation. Simple as that. And lack of due diligence.
Yeah.
Just a perfect storm. If you look at what's been going on in Cuba since the pandemic started, the island has been on a steady, consistent decline in terms of the economy there. There's been a mass exodus of people fleeing to Central America, Panama, Nicaragua, and ultimately the U.S. for a lot of people. So they call it, I guess, brain drain. A lot of people in the cigar industry left Cuba over the last 2 years.
Wow.
And I don't know if a lot of people aren't aware of this, but first off, over half of the Habanos S.A. catalog is not being produced at the moment. And also, factories are currently operating at 30 to 50% capacity. So the volume of cigars being produced is greatly reduced. And the amount of talent and workers that they have is substantially reduced as well. So I think this is why we saw some of these price increases and whatnot to try and compensate for this, to keep the to keep the ship afloat. But at the same time, retailers have long burned through their reserves.
Yep.
And I think to really kind of get a grasp on how these third-party internet retailers, how they got into such a tight spot, it's important to understand how Cuban cigars get distributed worldwide. So the whole system was really kind of perfected by a gentleman named Francisco Padron, who was the head of Cuba Tobacco from 1985 until 1994, when Cuba Tobacco became Habanos S.A. And he headed Habanos S.A. for a short period of time before they pushed him out the door. But he was really the one that solidified the one distributor per region, that the Cubans would deal with only one distributor per market. And the distributor in that market was only allowed to deal with retailers in their particular territory.
Right.
Hunters and Franco out of the UK, they're the only importer of Cuban cigars in the UK.
Yep.
And they're not allowed to just start dealing with Australia.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
yeah. PCC deals with the Asian market, right? And then you have Phoenicia,
exactly,
and a bunch of others.
So because of that system, there's always been a gray market where, retailers who have a surplus of certain cigars, under the table, they'll make a deal with another retailer in another territory. They're not supposed to be doing that, but it's always been done.
Right. And they get better allocation for limitadas and harder to find cigars, higher end cigars, if they get the standard production out of their store.
Exactly. Better the volume, the better the access.
Right. So it's like they were incentivized to move D4s, Monty 2s,
yep,
those type of popular global cigars out into the gray market. Yeah.
And that's why you always see deals on some of the duty-free stuff, like those selection Robustos or whatever.
Yep.
And the like Romeo No. 3 Tubos, cigars like that, you always see them on sale because they're incentivized. They sell a certain amount of that, then they'll be able to get a better rate in the future from the distributor, and also they'll get access to better stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody once told me for every 4 boxes of regular production, they get 1 box of regionals allocated to them.
Right.
Wow.
Right. So they're incentivized to move some of that other stuff out, bring in. It's good for the shop. You have more variety in there. It's just good all around. You get access to better stuff, better margin on stuff. But now, I guess it's what's happening is these guys aren't getting as much allocation. So that flow from these kind of like handshake deals to the gray market vendor aren't happening because they're short. Because they're short.
Yep.
They're short, exactly. And so now, since they're short, now the gray market vendor's super short with not a lot of options to get allocation to a regular allocation to inventory. So they end up exploring new options, and those new options get us to where we are with this box of Cohiba Robustos, kind of, right?
I believe that's exactly what happened. It's as simple as that.
And to your point about allocation, you think, we've talked about this on the pod before, Dan. I know you're a member there too, but Friends of Habanos is one of the premier retailers for PCC Direct. for Habanos in the Asian market. Rob, Friends of El Habano, I guess it's called now, in Australia. And I was on a Zoom with him on a Wednesday night, and we were talking about supply. And this is, he's getting this direct from PCC, who's getting it direct from Habanos. And he said that he didn't know what cigars he was going to have to be put on sale the following Friday. Like just like a week out, he doesn't know what he's going to be able to sell, or if he's going to have anything to sell a week out. So now that's a guy that's like a primo direct retailer from Habanos. Imagine what these gray market guys are going through.
I've got a question for all of you. So everything you're describing, what does the future hold for the Cuban cigar market? How can we expect?
What are you?
Yeah, I mean,
what is this? 60 Minutes?
No,
Dan Rather.
We
got Dan Rather.
I'm Bam Bam, and we would like to know what the future holds
Bam Bam
for the Cuban cigar market. I mean,
Bam Bam reporting. Bam Bam is reporting here. Yes.
I mean,
it's a serious question. I would love an answer to it.
I mean, how much time do we have? How much speculation?
No, really,
2 words, very bleak.
Yeah, it's bleak, but it's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
We've based our cigar hobby on we're the center of our cigar hobby is the Cuban market. What do we do?
Well, me personally, I've been smoking less cigars.
That's not what I wanted to hear.
Sorry, that's what I got for you.
Bam is a very biased journalist, very biased.
Yes.
I feel bad for people that are just getting into it now because this gray market that existed for at least a couple of decades, particularly for us folks in the U.S., we were getting access to cigars for prices that are, some of our European brethren could only dream of, because we weren't paying taxes. We still aren't. And we had, on any given day, we could have access to almost the entire catalog because we had access to retailers who weren't playing by the rules.
Right.
So one thing I've learned over the last couple of years is that when you're only dealing with one local distributor and, you're only able to get access to the cigars that are available to you locally at your local La Casa del Habano or, tobacconist, and let's say you live in like Spain or something. There's a gentleman who I speak to, and he really kind of enlightened me on this, asking about cigars. How come he can't find this, and how come he can't find that? I haven't seen this in 2 years. And I'm like, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, those were just on sale at FOH last week, and this I can get this any day of the week. And it's like, why is he having such a problem finding these cigars? A lot of folks over on the other side of the pond, they don't really even know about the whole gray market system that we've had access to for the longest time, and I feel like that system, we had it very good for a long period of time, and we were able to access cigars at low prices, and having full reign of the catalog. We were able to build up collections that you could have cigars from every brand in the catalog inside of a year if you wanted to.
Right.
I think a lot of that is going to change for newcomers, because unless money's not an object for you, it's just even looking at this Saint Luis Rey right now, 3 years ago, a box of these Regios was about between $200 and $250. The same box now would fetch probably close to $500 if it went up in the Cuban exchange group right now.
Yeah.
And that's because this cigar has always been kind of sporadically produced. It's not, they don't roll these every day of every week. Like they might kick out a couple of batches of these a year. And right now Habanos is kind of prioritizing. They're making their staples and their money makers.
Yeah, they're global brands. The portfolio brands are getting kicked aside a little.
Yeah. So we're in a situation right now where Regios or Schwa Supreme you're looking at, $400 to $500 for a box, where they were, half of that price a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And now we have, periods of 2 or 3 years where we don't see cigars like La Gloria Cubana Gold Medal #4, or Partagas 898. We might see like a very, very, very small production for the year, and it's essentially nil.
Yeah.
And that drives the value up on those boxes.
Absolutely.
The other thing I think they're doing too, Dan, is they're prioritizing, regionals, LCDH, and they're putting together these expensive presentation, like the packaging, the boxes, etc., to try to charge a higher dollar per cigar for essentially probably the same or maybe even inferior tobacco, but people eat it up because, the presentation's so classy.
Yeah, like that new Gloria Cubana
that's exactly what I was thinking about.
Just came out. I mean, it's a beautiful presentation, but at the same time, I would have been very happy to see more Gold Medal #4s go out.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
Or the Panatella regional edition for the Benelux market that was announced like 2.5 years ago. They're running very far behind on some of those previously announced regionals and whatnot. And the thing with regionals is that the distributor, see, it might seem like they're prioritizing that, but those distributors paid up front for those cigars. They have to pay for those cigars up front before the production even begins. So if Habanos wants to get paid from those distributors again, they got to, bring out an allocation of the last regional that they were paid for. So Habanos has really kind of painted themselves into a corner. And, a lot of it is not their fault, but some of it is as well.
So it's a combination, Dan, of lack of capacity that from a production standpoint on the island, sounds like, and they may have less yield of like actual raw material from the fields, like because they just don't have enough hands to cultivate, maybe,
or to roll.
Throughout the whole process, to roll, to cultivate, right? I mean,
no, sounds like that's the case.
Yeah.
It sounds like a storm.
Well, these geniuses at Habanos and not even so much Habanos as the Cuban government at large, when the pandemic was in its, when it was at its apex in, mid 2020, summer 2020, there were Cuban farmers, like workers that worked these farm cooperatives in Cuba, that weren't allowed to leave their homes to go harvest the tobacco. So there was tobacco that just sat on the plant that didn't get harvested because their coronavirus protocols basically mandated that these guys, stayed home and weren't allowed to go to work. So, well, I can understand that in some industries, others where, you're in a field working outside, and I don't think you're like right up against the guy next to you, I can't say I've ever worked a tobacco field, but I don't imagine that I don't imagine staying 6 feet away from somebody is too much of an issue.
Right.
So oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I have a question for you, but I just wanted to, we're coming into the last third here of the Regios.
Dan's only at his
I know Dan's on a halfway point.
I'm a slow smoker, man.
It's all good. I mean, this is a very delicious cigar.
It's delicious.
And I want a box. And of course, what Dan just said makes it cost prohibitive and actually supply prohibitive.
I can sell you one for $600. current prices.
Can I send you a check in 2 months?
Yeah, I'll pay you for it, and you deliver it, and then
I will tell you though, the smoke coming off of this, if you just take a whiff, it's really
delicious.
It smells great. It's like potpourri.
It really is. It's sweet. It's delicious.
Yeah,
very unusual.
Yeah,
Puba's down to the nub.
Yeah, this is a great cigar.
That's something there. If he's taking it down, that's something.
Yeah, he likes it.
Puba's taking it down.
Look at this. Are you accusing me of being particular?
It could be the herbal tea. It could be the herbal tea. So, Dan, I have a question for you, and this is a total hypothetical. given what happened, what we know as the dark period between, say, 1999 and 2001, when it wasn't Habanos at the time, or maybe it was when they were coming in, but they ramped up production so much to try to increase revenue and make the partners happy, et cetera. And they brought in rollers, and they very low quality control. Something that's been on my mind is the Cuban government and Habanos. It kind of suffers through the products of what they've created, and also things like this hurricane that just happened and whatnot, the challenges that they've had. Do you see a potential reality where there's another dark period here in cigar output?
Yes. I don't think it'll be the same kind of dark period, though. I think the dark period will be no cigars for a period of time, or severely reduced output. And I also see the potential for a complete collapse of the government. And if that happens, what happens to the Cuban tobacco industry? See, the coronavirus brought about a perfect storm of conditions. Okay, let's talk about real quick the time leading up to the pandemic. So, I got into Cuban cigars around early 2014 is when I started exploring Cuban cigars as opposed to strictly American market cigars. Early 2014 is when I came across Dr. Joe and became acquainted with him, and he kind of showed me the ropes and taught me about Cuban cigars and everything. And when I got started smoking Cuban cigars, the sick period still mattered and whatnot. Where Joe basically told me, he's like, you get a box of cigars or something, then generally the rule is you let it sit for 2 years. That's what I was told by Joe. And I kind of took that to heart. And anytime I tried a cigar fresh, I don't want to say I regretted it, but I noticed a difference between an aged Cuban cigar and, for that 2-year period versus one that was 8 months old or 10 months old. As time went on, though, when I got to like 2018, 2019, I was pulling cigars out of the box at 9-10 months that were just blowing me away with how amazing they were. So we had these amazing quality cigars. The quality it seemed like every year the quality got better and better. So going into 2018, 19, we have an incredible period of production where everything that's coming out seems to be just pure gold. And we're at a time period where we're paying $70 for a box of Por Loriñaga Monte Carlos, or $120 for a box of Monty Fours, or
$220 for D4s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even Cohiba. I paid in 2019. I think I bought a 15 pack of Cohiba Robustos. I think I paid about $250 for it.
Wow.
Just the prices that especially us here stateside were incredibly low when you looked at the caliber of cigar that you were getting. And the word seemed to get out that the quality of Cuban cigars at that time was very, very good, exceptional even. And when the pandemic hit, we still had this, the prices went up a little bit when the pandemic hit. But one thing that I noticed was that we had a lot of new blood come in around that time when the pandemic started. A lot of people were working from home. I think a lot of people came into it, and you have prices low, quality high, and now you have all these new guys coming in, and these guys are a lot of them seem to come over from American market cigars, where they were chasing high end American market cigars like Opus X and all the different appendages that line has. Some of the higher end Davidoffs and Padron and whatnot. So, and then on top of which you have the unpredictability of the Cuban economy. So the guys that are already into Cuban cigars, they kind of look at the coronavirus and how it's affecting everything, and they start thinking, what if the Cuban government can't handle the pandemic? What happens to the cigar industry? And so you have the guys that are already into cigars, they start loading up, buying more than typical. The newcomers are coming in and they're like, wow, this is amazing. I want to build a collection. So then now you have all this new blood that's building a collection. And for a little while, it was probably like manna from heaven for the vendors. But then when they blew through their reserves and getting replacements for that stock started to be a problem, now you have all these people trying to chase the same cigars, and the retailers can't get their hands on them fast enough. So now resources become limited and whatnot. And prices start going up. And even before official markups on the prices, the secondary market saw large increases. And then another factor that doesn't get discussed very often, but had a very big impact, in my opinion, was Bond Roberts.
Yeah.
Bond Roberts
auction
connected.
So for the listener, the Bond Roberts is a high-end auction site.
Yep.
For Cuban cigars.
And, a lot of people dove right into Bond Roberts because of the reputation of the people that started it. You have Rob Ayala from Friends of Habanos on one hand, and then you have the Fox family, who are, they're Tobacco Man royalty, legends from Europe, UK, I believe, or
they're from the UK.
Is it? Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yep.
So you have this, this amalgamation of legendary Cuban cigar retailers coming together, and they put together an auction site. And something that happened was something that I've never really seen previously, and that was a mixing of the American and European market, and they start mingling with Asian buyers, who in Asia right now, the cigar culture is exploding. And one thing I noticed was that some of these gentlemen were willing to pay prices that a lot of us never would have paid. So on Bond Roberts, I started seeing, I remember one time I realized Bond Roberts was going to be an issue when I saw a 2017 box of Schwa Supreme go for $650.
Yeah, this is interesting. I think you're bringing up a very, very interesting point, because Fox and FOH have access to probably the pick of the litter master cases, I would think, right? I mean, they buy enough, they get enough allocation, and they're putting these boxes up on on Bond Roberts, and now there's visibility. I guess the point you're making is there's visibility into what the market is willing to really bear. It's all borne out for everyone to see. And and that created an issue.
Isn't cigars
and it's
Habanos
being driven by the Asian, and you're saying that those prices are being driven by the Asian market?
Partially. I don't want to say it's all them.
Well, let's just say the thing that gives me that gives credo to what you're saying, Dan, is that Habanos aligned their pricing structure for both Cohiba and Trinidad to what people were paying in Hong Kong. That was the entire price realignment for those two marcas, was to the Hong Kong market worldwide.
Yeah, I'm not sure what how that decision came about. It's one thing that is important to factor into that is that Habanos S.A. is 50% owned by somebody from Hong Kong.
Yep.
And that person is never really they made the buy through a shell corporation, and that person, it's rumored that they're like a big casino magnate. Nobody, I don't think the person's ever been publicly named, but since that entity has a 50% stake in Habanos, it's hard to really tell what kind of directives they've tried to push, and that could very well been them that that started pushing in that direction. But either way, you bring up an excellent point that product that was previously being designated to mostly the European market, and then, by proxy, the American market, for the first time, those markets are seeing their allocations shrink, and then allocations in other regions growing. And that lowered their access to cigars, which in turn, especially in the secondary market, now you have the guys that do have boxes to sell of certain cigars. They're charging higher prices, and the newcomers, they want that box of Sir Winston. They want that box of Cohiba Bahique. So they're willing to pay prices for it that, 2 years ago, people would have gotten laughed out of a forum for it.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it's the way it is now. And it's, one thing I guess for the listener is I don't know, what do you do? Smoke less Cuban cigars? Well, maybe explore some New World cigars that you can rotate in. I mean, I know we do.
Oh yeah,
we're doing it now.
Oh, yeah.
We're all doing it.
We're doing it. It's a great point.
Yeah, it is.
And so if you like, hey, if you're gonna pay, there's a couple Davidoffs that we really like, not nearly the whole line.
No.
And there's
Padron.
a bunch of Padrones that we like. So if you really want a great cigar, I mean, they're out there for you. I mean, Dan, I don't know. Do you smoke? Is this sacrilege to even ask you this question? Are there any New World cigars that you smoke ever?
That's a great question.
Come on, please tell
Yeah,
us.
I do smoke New World cigars occasionally. I just prefer not to most of the time. But honestly, if you guys saw the New World cigars that I would reach for, you guys would probably be like, "What the hell's wrong with this kid?" Because a lot of people call them boring.
Yeah, don't say Rocky Patel, because
No.
Rooster gets a little hot.
I'm leaving the pod.
If he said Rocky Patel, we would have so much ammo on him.
I'm going to go unsubscribe from Cigar Salute now. I would go for like a Diamond Crown or an Ashton Cabinet Selection, or maybe some of the Davidoffs. My checklist of what I want out of a cigar is pretty simple. I want to be able to retrohale it without flames shooting out of my nose. So that knocks off like 3/4 of Nicaraguan cigars for me right there.
Yep.
I don't want to be bludgeoned with spice or leather. And I don't want to feel like I'm biting into a bell pepper when I smoke a cigar. So that eliminates for me Opus X right there.
Yeah.
Because the last 3 Opuses I had, it tasted like I was biting into a bell pepper.
Dude, we haven't had good experiences with Opus recently.
They need age.
Yeah, they need to smooth out.
I smoked an Opus probably about 3 years ago that was 21 years old.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
And it was in the cellophane still. My buddy Seabold, he's one of my YouTube viewers. He sent it to me as a gift. And it was so old that the gold flake on the band had worn away, and it was black in the spots that it was previously gold. And this cigar was so powerful.
Yeah.
When I took it out of the cellophane and I clipped the head of the cigar, this translucent brown, like amber colored resin starts spilling out of the filler.
Wow.
And I got a little dab of this stuff on my tongue, and I felt my pupils like just.
Is there video of this, Dan?
No. But this cigar still had so much kick to it after 20 plus years.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell was this thing like new? But so yeah, for me, like Cuban cigars, they're just the bee's knees for me, because I really enjoy the floral flavors and the complexity of them, and they don't have that knock you down kind of strength.
Yeah.
That makes me all geeked out on nicotine, and they don't have that spiciness that like Nicaraguan cigars have.
Yeah.
That's not to say that I won't enjoy one every so often, but it has to be the right cigar. Something else that I like, some of the brands I like, I really like some of the Caldwell cigars, the Eastern Standard Dos Firmas.
I've had it. Yeah. I've had that cigar.
That to me, it has a lot of the same qualities that I look for in a Cuban cigar. It can be retrohaled nicely. It has a nice kind of floral, sugary taste to it. It's not overwhelming, and it's well rolled, and it's a nice cigar.
We should do that on the pod.
Yeah.
We should do it.
Yeah.
The Eastern Standard. So I'm kind of glad you brought that up because I'm kind of not a closet fan of Caldwell, but let's just say I have some. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
more secrets.
Yeah, he keeps secrets from us.
More secrets. Dan,
No,
we keep finding out these secrets. Mr. Cuban Cigar behind me
Well,
here.
but his
Puba.
name-
Cuba only smokes New Worlds at home.
Exactly.
No,
That's
but
the biggest secret.
The maker. No, what's his name's Rob, right? Is it Rob Caldwell? I can't remember.
Yeah, Rob Caldwell.
Yeah,
is his
Rob
name,
Caldwell. Yeah, he's kind of a hotshot kind of mover and shaker guy, and he runs this operation out of Miami, and he makes the artwork on his bands are pretty cool, and he makes some decent cigars, and he makes Lonsdales, which I love.
Yeah, we love a Lonsdale.
Yeah.
You know,
We love a
so
Lonsdale.
Oh,
there's
yeah.
some Lonsdales out there, like Long Live the King is Dead. There's a couple of these
Yep.
cigars and that I've smoked through and I've given to people as well, and they've all actually liked them. So there you go. I still have some.
Hey,
We should
I
try
got
it.
a question. Dan, some of these boxes that came from Monty Fortuna, the counterfeit ones, did they not come from Spain somehow? That's what I read somewhere.
Leading up to that, the Monty Fortuna business, when I discovered this defect with the UV stamps going on at Finest Cuban Cigars, I made a post on Reddit, and then about a week later, I made another one on Cuban Exchange. When I made that post on Cuban Exchange, we started getting people writing us, private messages saying that they found the numbers in the stamp on this box of cigars or that box of cigars, and then one of our buddies in Cuban Exchange, he had purchased over $10,000 worth of Cohiba from these two gentlemen from Spain that were operating out of the CSP Facebook group,
Okay.
and he found the digits in the stamps on those boxes. So he bought over $10,000 worth of boxes from these two guys in Spain, and they were flooding this group with these boxes, and a whole bunch of other sellers had purchased boxes from these guys. So
And
we
we're
started
flipping
realizing,
and we're flipping them.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So we started realizing that these things were making the rounds, and once all these guys who found out that they had gotten taken, they started talking to their friends about these boxes. So then we found out, a lot of them were coming from Cuba, or they were being purchased in Cuba anyway, including somebody bought a box of counterfeit Behique 56s from a La Casa del Habano in Cuba.
Wow.
That's
And,
scary. That's scary.
Someone bought a box of Behique 54s with numbers in the UV stamp from a brick and mortar shop in Canada.
Wow.
And how about Cigar Aficionado with that that festival release?
Don't even get me started.
That's a whole nother podcast.
How about that
Yeah.
shit though? I mean,
But-
I'm looking at that going, oh my God. I mean, Cigar Aficionado, first of all, would you just look at the box code
That's
and everything, and then
That's insane.
it was and I don't even think the bands matched in the box.
Nope.
bro. When I saw that, I was in Maryland. Me and my girl had gone to a wedding the night before, and when I was in the hotel room, it was like 7:00 in the morning, and I was in my bathrobe eating cookies, drinking bourbon and cream soda.
At 7 a.m.
A man after our own hearts.
God bless you.
Let's
God
go.
bless you.
Let's give him a round of applause. Let's go, Dan. Excellent. Oh, what a lizard.
I had just started. I was about to watch a show called Power, and on my phone, and I saw a notification from Facebook, and then it was a picture, a still from that video with the box code and everything. I'm like, what the hell is this? And yeah, that's just. I'm disgusted by some of the things that I've been seeing as far as what the way that Habanos and has been handling things, and then even for them to allow Phoenicia to put those boxes out.
Yeah, it's crazy.
To me,
and let's just say, by the way,
mistake.
for the listener, I think we touched on that on an previous episode, this whole crazy thing with Cigar Aficionado, and Dan and I were in the comment section teeing off about it. It did end up that not only were those boxes confirmed authentic by Cigar Aficionado, but also by Phoenicia, saying that that all of these anomalies and everything else were actually a product of I don't know, whatever you want to call it, mislabeling.
I checked the UV stamps, by the way. They're good.
What's that?
I checked the UV stamps, by the way. There's no digits in them or blank spaces.
It's crazy, man. Dan, I have a question for you. And I know that you've kind of alluded to there being some follow-up here with this issue extending beyond Monty Fortuna. Now, I know you can't get into a lot of those details yet, but A, is that true? Are you expecting there to be some more retailers who are outed with this counterfeit operation?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
And when do you expect that we and the listeners out there and fans of Cigar Salute can start to figure out where some of these other boxes are coming from?
Within the next few weeks, probably.
Okay.
The problem is, and this is something I've always had an issue with when investigating counterfeits. A lot of people only care when it applies to them. So my point is that when it came to Monty Fortuna, a lot of people shopped there on Reddit. So it was easy to get them to take a black light and check their boxes or check out the serial numbers and be like, oh crap, I got a problem here. Let me order a black light on Amazon.
Yeah.
And don't feel bad, Gizmo, because we probably, if I had to add them all up, I would say we probably had at least over 100 people in our inbox.
That's crazy
about the issue.
And those are only the people, Dan, who have seen it somewhere, seen it on Reddit. We're not talking about the wider community who is just ordering stuff and smoking with their friends at home, maybe aren't plugged in on the internet. To your point, we're talking about probably a very small percentage of these boxes that have been found out, which is terrifying to me. And it's sad that there's a lot of folks out there who think they have a wonderful box of Cohiba Robustos or Siglo 6 or Bejiques or whatever it might be, that they think they have this great box they spent a lot of money for. They're proud of it. And in fact, it's fake.
Well, some people just don't want to know, man.
That's true.
As far as they're concerned, they can show their friends or they can flash it on Instagram and, oh, look, my bands sparkle all nice and everything. Oh, see that hologram? I got my Cohibas. So they, some people just don't want to know if they're fake or not, because as far as they're concerned, even the fake box is accomplishing everything they want from that box, which is, I look cool. I look like I know what I'm doing.
Well, that's the thing with Cohiba that is interesting, because you're like you love Cohiba for what Cohiba is.
I do love Cohiba, yes.
You love, and that's always been true for you. But there's people who smoke Cohiba and for the wrong reasons, because it's like putting a Mercedes Benz in your mouth. But I'm personally, I'm kind of glad that Cohiba is not my thing. Do you know what I mean? And I've had
your wallet's glad too.
Yeah, my wallet. my wallet is glad too. Yeah. My family, the kids 529 college fund, all that stuff. But I don't like, it's not that I wish I liked Cohibas more. I mean, it would just be another nice thing to enjoy more. So they're just, my only point that I'm making is that there are people out there who smoke Cohiba for the status. I mean, I'm stating the obvious, but I feel bad for the true, really the guys who really do love the marca, you know, who really enjoy it and cherish it. It's too bad that this is happening. So
yeah, and especially, you know, for me personally, I really love the small vitolas of Cohiba, and those are the ones that are going to be the collateral damage out of this whole price mess that they made with tripling the prices.
Because they're going to discontinue them, you think? Because there's just not going to be any demand, or?
I don't know, to be honest. It's hard to say, but who in their right mind is going to pay, you know, $650 for a box of Cohiba Panatellas?
Yeah.
You know, it's a 26 ring gauge by 4.5 inch cigar.
It's a nice cigar, but it's not that nice.
It's a great cigar.
It's not that. It's not that great. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now. If you you know, something that's always like been a pet peeve for me is when you go to a wedding and somebody brings a box of cigars, and then, you know, an hour later you walk past the ashtray. There's an empty box of cigars where, you know, and there's an ashtray full of cigars that somebody took 3 puffs off of and put them in the ashtray. The Cohiba Panatella is the perfect like wedding cigar or party cigar, in the sense where, like, especially a wedding when you're constantly getting called in. Oh, we got to take pictures. We got, you know, happy hour. We got dancing. We got dinner. We got dessert. You know, it's a cigar you can have in 20, 30 minutes. And it's a really classy cigar. And it's a very elegant cigar. But it's not a cigar that you're going to get tied to for an hour and a half or an hour.
Yeah.
You know, if you really want to, you could stretch it for a good 45, 50 minutes. But
and if you want to, like Bam Bam and Pagoda, you could smoke that thing in 8 minutes.
That sounds like a cigarette.
No, let me tell you. Hey, I'll tell you something. Dan mailed me, was kind enough to mail me Cohiba Panatella, and
Very nice.
I think it was an Exquisito I might have sent you.
Was it an Exquisito?
It's weird. I didn't get any of those. That's weird.
That was
another secret.
Look at you being all weird.
It is.
That's strange. The anyway, but you had sent me and that was a great little cigar. That cigar, great little cigar. Wonderful.
That box was from Laguito too. I think I sent you the one I sent you was rolled at El Laguito.
Yeah. And it's a great little cigar. I loved it.
Yeah.
So
and
you know,
they have 6 boxes.
to your point too. I mean, one other point I like about those small cigars is, you know, Dan, you're at a wedding in the wintertime or whatever. You go outside, you're freezing your ass off. It's still a fine cigar to smoke because you're in and out. You know, it checks all the boxes. To your point.
That's what I mean. You know, it's a cigar worthy of you know, it's a high caliber cigar in terms of the quality and everything.
Yeah.
But it's not a large format that you're gonna, you know, wind up putting half of it in the ashtray and disrespecting the cigar.
Yeah.
You know, but I do fear that those cigars might suffer from this price change that Cohiba and Trinidad have gone through. The same thing with the Trinidad Reyes and the Colonials as well. You know, a lot of people won't pay that kind of money for a box of Reyes.
No, the Colonials.
I love the Colonials.
Tremendous cigar.
Yeah, those have really picked up in popularity the last couple of years. For a few years, like, people really slept on those, and then the last like 2 or 3 years, I noticed the Colonials is just getting more and more popular.
We reviewed that. Great.
It's a good size. What's the ring gauge again? It's 40,
44 maybe.
5 1/4 by 44.
40. Yeah, it's nice.
I wish they made more cigars than that Vitola. That's like the perfect Vitola to me.
Yeah.
You're right.
Well, 40. They have 44 ring gauge, 46 ring gauge, 42 ring gauge. I love those ring gauges.
So, before we get to, you know, I want to rate the cigar, and then I want to give the listeners some action items as they, you know, continue to purchase Cuban cigars and what to look for. But let's do the formal lizard rating on this thing, boys. Any final thoughts before we do that on this?
Yeah, so we're going to have Dan rate the cigar.
Oh yeah, he's
as well, and it's round numbers, unlike Dave Portnoy Pizza. reviews. This is round. This is round numbers.
Flat number, Dan.
Flat numbers.
One
Now,
through 10.
there was a rationale for this at the beginning of the podcast, and we've just stuck to it. So
okay. What are your fields of what are your points that you review on? Like, do you do like
it's your
construction
personal...
is a 9?
No, it's a flat number. Your
Yep,
personal
your
experience
personal
with that cigar at that
right,
moment.
Right.
How did that cigar do
Okay.
for you? So we'll come to you last, Dan. We'll give you guest privilege. We'll go to you last, and we'll start with Rooster.
Thank you.
Rooster, you're up.
Yeah, so this cigar actually, I mean, it did check all boxes for me. It was floral. It was fruity. I mean, basically, that's what I look for in a Cuban cigar. It was medium, not like a full-bodied cigar or anything like that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Loved it. Great construction. Great burn. I did not have to light it, at all. I mean, it was just the first light, and that was it. So I'm gonna give it a 9.
Excellent.
Yep.
Puba.
yeah, for me, it checks a lot of the boxes. It's not 100% in my wheelhouse in terms of flavor profile, but I mean, it's great. If I could put it in the mid to higher 8s, I would, but for me, it doesn't quite get there for what I like all the time. So I'm going to give it an 8.
So for me, for a Hermosos for this size, it's superb. It's right up there with the Schwa Supreme. I definitely want to get a box of these. It's a 9 for me, for sure. Pagoda?
Yeah, actually, I really enjoyed the cigar, and I'm, I was even debating a 10, but I think it's a 9 for me. I smoked it to the nub, and I think Bamba and I were looking at each other.
Oh, yeah.
It was very flavorful,
Very satisfying.
very satisfying. Even with the floral notes, it was on the sweeter side as opposed to the saltier side, which was slightly different experience for me. Really, really enjoyed it. So it's a definite 9 for me.
Okay. Bam.
Yeah, I'm going 9 as well for every reason that everyone here said. But what's unique about a cigar for me, of course, I pursue the floral and the dry fruit. But when the smoke itself that comes off the cigar has a beautiful aroma, that's a home run. It's a home run.
Great
9.
combustion.
Yeah.
Even the ash stuck around. It was for quite some time.
Yeah.
For a Cuban, I think I was really
Yeah,
impressed.
no draw issues.
No draw
whatsoever.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Oh,
Great.
man.
All right, Dan.
I'm also going to go with the 9. And my reason for deducting a point is just because it's obviously not the best cigar I've ever had, but I really always I find these to be very consistent. I always enjoy them. I have for years. And one thing I love about Cuban tobacco is the floral component, and this cigar to me epitomizes that Cuban floral tone. And the best examples of Regios that I've had, it's almost like a chorus of floral notes where you're getting like different types of floral notes that all kind of amalgamate together, and it comes together in this cohesive, complex blend. And also, I find this cigar has a lot of strength to it, and you don't expect it from such a bright floral flavored cigar. You wouldn't expect it to be so strong.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I find these to be among the more powerful Habanos. And right now, as I'm getting into the last third, I'm starting to pick up like other types of notes, like a very sugary, almost like a bubblegum type note. And it's really interesting. It reminds me of pink bubblegum. And it's combining with that like flowery taste, and it really is a very enjoyable cigar. I haven't had a Regios in a while, so when Gizmo and I were speaking last night, and we were talking about what we might have on the show today, when I threw out the idea for the Regios and he agreed to it, I was like, oh hell yeah, I'm gonna smoke a Regios tonight.
I'm so thankful Rooster had them.
Yeah.
He had a great box. And actually, I can't
we all?
believe, I mean, the serendipity of it that Dan had a box code that was within
Very
6
similar.
months of
That's cool.
ours. So worked out very, very well.
Another cigar that's extremely floral is the LGC, the MDOs.
The MDO4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
MDO number 4. I mean, that's one of my
that's-
favorite.
We're going to do that.
We have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that is so floral. I mean, it's unbelievable.
That's different. That's different ball game though than
It
this
is.
cigar.
It is
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
That's a
It's a higher,
in my opinion.
it's a
That's
higher caliber
it is.
cigar.
It
There's no
is.
doubt.
yeah, that's a king of.
But I think
it's a
but
smaller ring gauge, but
Yeah.
the flavor
Just the
that you
delivery.
get out of that,
It's
I
insane.
mean, it's
phenomenal.
Oh
amazing.
my goodness, it's such an elegant cigar.
Yeah.
You really
Indeed.
just
it really is. That's a perfect word
Good
for
way
it.
to put it.
Elegant.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be
everything about
smoked
that
very
cigar.
slow.
Yeah.
Very slow.
Yeah, you
I
can't
don't
rush that one.
understand
Can't
what
rush
they're
that.
doing. I don't understand why they're not making them more.
Yeah,
The demand is there. People
Yeah,
want them.
Indeed. Most definitely.
They do want
Yeah,
them.
and,
They're kind of getting away with the smaller ring gauges, seems like. I mean, it takes a roller maybe the same amount of time, and you get more bang for the buck if you roll a bigger cigar. And especially, for the American market, maybe for the European market, they still like a smaller ring gauge. But in the U.S., I don't know how many people really go for a 36, 38 ring gauge.
Yeah. No, you're right.
That's something I love about Cuban cigars, though, is that for decades it was unsullied by American consumerism. Think about everything about American market cigars versus Cuban cigars. Okay, American market cigar, you go to the shop, you pick out what you want, you take it out of the cellophane, and you can smoke it that day, or you can throw it in your humidor and come back to it later. There's no waiting. There's no sick period or anything like that. There's generally no availability problems on a particular line, or you're not going to have to wait years for it to come back out. I mean, some cigars might be more difficult to get than others due to the way that they're distributed to shops, like what Fuente does.
Yeah.
Dropping Opus at Christmas and Father's Day, I think, is when they start filling out allocations or whatever. But to me, Cuban cigars, it's almost like tending to a garden. Where you're adding new things to that garden, and every so often you're adjusting your storage techniques and whatnot to accommodate the conditions of that particular cigar. Like, if that cabinet, if you're starting to feel the cigars inside getting too dry, you might throw a Boveda pack inside. Actually, it's a Boveda. Excuse me, I always pronounce that wrong. Or if the cigars are starting to feel too spongy, you pull that Boveda pack out of the cabinet and you maybe put it next to it instead or something, or just. But the American attitude towards cigars and ring gauge, it seems, circling back to my point, it's like almost like the SUV craze in America, where the bigger is better.
Yep.
I got my truck lifted with 35-inch tires, and
we're gonna send you an 80 ring gauge cigar. One of the guys at this lounge, he smokes one every day.
Every day.
Pretty much. 80 ring gauge.
We might send him along as well.
If you have any technical issues.
If you have any room in your house,
we're gonna send him along.
We'll send him with the cigar.
Yeah, take him. Just take him.
No, but I think you're it's a fair point. I mean, I like how you describe tending to a garden. I think that's interesting, right? Because you're tending to your humidor, and you're changing your storage based on what you're acquiring, and you're staging cigars out based on maybe what you're going to smoke, if based on the way they feel. So you're right. It's kind of like this instant gratification and bigger is better thing in the American market, where it's like, I'm just going to walk in. What do I need to keep a humidor for? I'll just walk into JR Cigar and buy this or that. I've had people look at my tower and they go, "What do you need all those cigars for?" I go, "You just don't understand. You don't
Why
get it.
don't I need them?
Right. Why don't I need them? Well, right. Well, what are you planning on having because they don't understand, you've got stuff aging in there. You have stuff you're smoking, and it is like a garden, and you're backfilling your collection, and you're front loading it and trying to keep a collection. And I don't know if do people really collect like New World cigars? Like people collect Cubans?
I think
what's there to
it,
collect?
but I think
I
it's
think they
different
do.
though.
They
I think
do?
it's I do,
different,
but I
they
think
do
it's different.
collect.
Right? I mean, to me, the Cuban thing, the thing that distinguishes Cubans for me, to kind of go off of all your points, is that it's almost it's like more challenging. You know, it's more of a struggle. There's a little more suffering.
Well, the sourcing,
You know,
right?
trying to keep your Cubans right and smoke them well, and keep
Well, also
you
they're
know,
rolled fresh,
and yeah,
right?
and
So
to
if
me,
you
it's
look-
more of a challenge, which I think makes it more intriguing to
yeah.
me.
But if you look at a Davidoff or a Padron, there's already like 5 to 7 years of age on
Yeah.
the by the time it's on the shelf.
Yeah.
So it doesn't require that much age. So you can just
Yeah.
pick one up and smoke one, and you'll be very satisfied.
So by the way, boys, the composite lizard score on the Saint Luis Rey Regios is an 8.8.
Excellent score. Wow.
Excellent score.
Yeah.
Strong recommend. Let's go, Dan.
Perfect.
Excellent. Excellent.
Strong recommend.
So Dan,
The,
oh, go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to round out my previous point in regards to ring gauge and whatnot, and about the American cigar smokers that smoke American market cigars. Some of these guys, my friends, coworkers or whoever that I've tried to introduce to Cuban cigars, they don't enjoy them for reasons that you might not expect. Ring gauge maybe being one of them, but more often than not, some of them don't find those cigars, Cuban cigars, particularly satisfying because they're so used to that blast of nicotine that you might get from a Drew Estate or a diesel or like a standard American market cigar
Like
like
a
an AJ
Liga.
Fernandez or
Yeah,
whatever.
Liga.
Yeah, I mean these guys they want to get that nicotine buzz,
Yep.
and they don't, they're not looking at cigars from like a connoisseur standpoint more than they're looking at getting a nice head change from all that nicotine that's in these like Lajero bombs
Right.
that so like these Nicaraguan cigars that are popular these days with just loaded with Lajero primings and whatnot. And some companies do Nicaraguan tobacco really well, and the cigars can be strong but elegant as hell. I mean, like Padron, obviously,
Of course.
those guys
Yeah,
are
of
masters at aging. I mean, they have tons and tons of reserves of well aged, high quality tobacco. Padron is like what's his name? Robert Levin from Ashton. He
Yep.
calls his Ashton Estate Sungrown. He calls it the Velvet Hammer because it's elegant on the flavors, but the strength creeps up on you. I think Padron does that really well, but a lot of Cuban cigars don't deliver that same kind of umph, and a lot sometimes. Friends of mine that I've tried to introduce to Cuban cigars, they don't find the cigar satisfying because they're not getting that same level of they're not getting that with the
strength.
nicotine and
Well,
everything.
It's
Right.
because they
Yeah,
don't know
the
what to look
strength.
for. They don't
The
know what to look
No,
for.
but like
Yeah, but that's not necessarily true. They don't know what to look for, but they may just not want that.
Maybe.
and
Well,
they don't
they're-
have
I don't
access
think
to
they're
it.
exposed to the exposed to
And
the
how
And they
Cuban
can't get
many,
them. To Pagoda's point.
when you go to a local shop, how many guys do you see retrohaling?
None.
Yeah.
None.
It's a
Yeah.
good point. It's a good point.
My
That's something
sinuses
that
don't help.
that really kind of sits more with the Cuban cigar community. We tend to retrohale our cigars, at least sometimes. Not everybody does, and
All the time.
You know,
All the time.
We do
but
on the
I,
we do
you
on
know,
the
I
pod. We talk
retrohale
about it
almost
here.
every
Oh.
draw I take.
Yeah.
It's a must, I
know?
think.
If I can't retrohale your cigar, I'm not going to enjoy your cigar. We'll put it that way. So you want to ask why I don't smoke more New Worlds? That might be the biggest reason right there.
Good point.
Yeah.
So Dan, as we come to the end of the episode here, I want to leave I want to give our listeners and us, I mean, I open it up to you and everyone here, but what are some action items that you can kind of give us and the listener to first source authentic Cuban cigars to the best of their ability, but also know and check that they have authentic Cuban cigars, even in their humidor right now that they already have, like I did. What are some of the things that they and we can do to be better set up to not have fake Cuban cigars in our humidor?
Okay. Well, the biggest thing is who are your connections? You want to learn how these cigars are distributed. I touched on it a little bit earlier, but if you want to be certain that you're going to get authentic product, then deal with licensed sources. Learn about what La Casa del Habano is. Learn about Habanos specialists and Habanos points. If you stick with retailers who source only from official supply chains, then you're not going to have the issues that the gray market is dealing with right now. The other thing is, being involved with Cuban cigars, knowledge is always power. So right now there's a retailer, a gray market retailer, that they have more Cohiba than I've seen anybody have in the last year. And they have stuff that I haven't seen on the shelf in God knows how long. Siglo 5 cabinets. They have Medio Siglo and Siglo 6 and Cohiba Robustos in stock and whatnot. And this is a retailer that their regular selection is dismal on any given day. They might, they're a retailer that picks up overstock from Spain and they sell them out of Canada. I'm talking about RSVP cigars right now. Something like that to me is a red flag.
Yeah.
Because
if it's too good to be true, it is, right?
Yeah. I mean, Siglo 5, you barely see cabinets of those circulating in the last few years. So to see this guy who is as gray market gets, all of a sudden have, quantity of Siglo 5 cabinets to sell. That to me strikes me as odd. Now, I'm not, I can't say for sure whether those particular cigars are counterfeit, but I can tell you right now that in general, a scenario like that, especially these days, is something I would avoid.
Yeah.
So being patient and not necessarily making decisions with your wallet are the ways to, ensure success with your Cuban cigar purchasing hygiene. Is I guess the best way to
hygiene.
articulate it.
What a perfect what a perfect word. Hygiene.
People they get attracted to a deal.
Yeah.
Like Monty Fortuna had those Cohiba Robustos for $1,200.
Yep.
And normally they're going for about $1,500-$1,600 a cabinet right now. So that's like a 25% discount right there. That's a lot, especially today when it's been proven time and time again that they don't need to discount the cigars a single dollar and they'll still fly off the shelf.
Yep.
There's people that are willing to buy them at any price. A lot of the newcomers that have come in, they're very aggressive in their buying practices. They check the sites every day. And the second that something comes up, they're making posts on Reddit. Oh, Sir Winston back in stock at Habanos. Boom, they're gone 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
I got so lucky last year with the La Gloria Cubana gold medal number 4s because it was like, I think it was like a Tuesday or a Wednesday morning at like 10 o'clock in the morning. And I just so happened to be at work and my buddy texted me and he's like, yo, go on Cigars of Cuba right now. They have gold medal number 4 in stock. I was like, are you serious? And those were off the shelf for about 3 years. And I stopped what I was doing immediately, and I went on the website. I ordered a cabinet of the La Gloria Cubanas, and I texted my buddy, and he got the text about 5 minutes later. He went to go order a box. They were gone.
Yep.
So, it's just really kind of be in the right place at the right time, but at the same time, like, that vendor in particular, Cigars of Cuba, they're one of the oldest internet vendors. and they operate out of the same warehouse as Cigar One and Top Cubans. Those are top tier online vendors, and while they're technically gray market vendors, they source about 90% of their product from their designated regional distributor. So almost everything you get from them comes from official supply chains, and maybe some small amount of their cigars might come from another regional distributor, but they don't deal further down the trough like some of these other gray market dealers like Monty Fortuna and whatnot.
Yeah.
And something that kind of aggravates me is people still want to buy cigars from Monty Fortuna even after this whole thing has come out with them. And Monty Fortuna is still lying about the situation that they've found themselves in with these counterfeits. First off, we have found and we have tons of photo evidence to back this up from people on Reddit. Pyramids Extra and Cohiba Bahike, and we have them dead to rights on that. People were getting UAO November 20 boxes of Pyramids Extra from Monty Fortuna.
And that code was retired at the end of 19, right?
Yes. Despite what Phoenicia will tell you, that code is dead. But so
really it's about knowing. It's really about knowing your vendor, right? And hoping that you're working with and you're purchasing from a vendor that is doing the right thing and operating above board, right?
Yeah. I mean, right now it's hard to say, as far as know your vendor goes, because gray market vendors, we don't know where they're necessarily sourcing from, and while they might have always been reliable for 20 years or 10 years, things could change rapidly. Given the situation that we have right now. So a lot of people don't like waiting for something to come up on FOH, or they don't want to deal with a foreign tobacconist or a La Casa del Habano, because they have to wait for inventory to come in, and then they have to there might be a waiting list of people ahead of them, so it might take you a year and a half, 2 years to get that box that you've been chasing after.
So you got to be patient.
That's the safest way to do it, though.
So now let's say you have cigars on the way, you have cigars in your humidor, or you have a trusted vendor that you're pretty sure that you're going to get authentic stuff. You mentioned the UV blacklight you can order from Amazon, right? So obviously when folks click the link in the episode description, they can see the photos that you shared of my box on Reddit, the counterfeit Robustos, and what to look for, and what, you also shared authentic versions. It was like A/B photos. So there's a lot of good information there. So that's a good tell as well, right? Is being able to put that black light on the box.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like to push it too much, because I feel like people have become way too reliant on, just checking for security tells as far as like black light features and whatnot. First off, all of those features have been copied.
Yeah.
As far as like, checking for the black light features in the bands and whatnot, like those blue squares that light up and everything. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yep.
So that's been copied. That little CHB lot code that shows up in the Cohiba Bands, that's been copied.
Yeah.
Just like the UV stamp has been copied. And just by going off aesthetics and whatnot, it can be tough to make that determination. But we get lucky in the sense that no matter how well done counterfeits get, there always seems to be something little that gets screwed up. Yeah. So these particular fakes that came out, they would not have been identified if we didn't know that the place where the digits were in the UV stamp, that they had started rubbing them out. And I became hip to that because somebody in Cuban Exchange sent me a photo of a box of Ramon Allones specially selected that they purchased from a bogus Costa Rican vendor, and I noticed that UV stamp he showed me a picture of the warranty seal under a black light. I noticed that UV stamp, there was a space missing where the digits would have been.
Wow.
On all these other counterfeits that we were seeing. So they're correcting their methods very quickly because I put a video out in March to the group about, the stuff with the counterfeits and whatnot, and how to, looking for the digits in the seal and the stamp and everything. And by May or June, they had already erased the digits from the defective, from the bogus UV stamps.
Wow.
But familiarizing yourself with the serial number sequence, how that whole system works,
Yep.
and making the serial number system work for you, that's a great way to authenticate right now, because it's very difficult for counterfeiters to stay with current serial numbers, because they would have to update the serial numbers every month, or relatively regularly to get an accurate portrayal of how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And
Man,
these guys,
this shit is scary,
Go
man.
ahead.
It really is.
Well, there's a lot of
Yeah,
there's a
it's
lot
so-
of incentive and there's a lot of opportunity right now.
Yep.
By the way,
yeah,
Dan, I just went on the Cigars of Cuba website. Everything's out of stock.
that's a good sign that they're an authentic vendor.
Everything is
Unfortunately,
literally everything that we want is out of stock.
yeah,
It's a good sign.
that's how it is right now. So when you start seeing a vendor that's flush with Cohiba, what does that tell you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there might be a couple of exceptions. There's certain gray market vendors that have been around for 25 years, 30 years, and they have connections beyond what the average vendor does. So you look at a guy, like Ravi, that guy has got he has got a hoard of product, going back decades.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
cigars of
That's
Habanos,
cigars of
but-
Habanos. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
but
it
his,
is.
Yeah.
his vintage prices.
Yeah, they're through the roof.
Oh yeah.
They're through the roof.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
He took his vintage section down when Bond Roberts went live,
I think it was
and now
back
he
up.
sells on Bond Roberts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's a
that's
part of
smart.
I
Bond-
think he's a part of
he's
it.
a part of
His
Bond
logo
Roberts.
is on the bottom of Bond Roberts.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So-
I wouldn't surprise you. Him and Rob have been friends for a long time.
Yep.
It's a good business move.
Mm.
Well, I mean, guys,
Lot
what an educational
There's a
night.
lot to learn. A lot to learn.
Yeah, it's absolutely. It's always a pleasure to talk to Dan and all of us reach out to him for support and education and advice. So thank you for coming on the show tonight. It's
This was great.
Oh,
It was
really
great.
phenomenal.
My pleasure.
Yeah,
My pleasure.
I feel like this is going to be the first of many, and certainly as there's more updates and there's more progress here, or the opposite of progress, I guess, as things happen. Dan, we'd love to have you back on, man. This was absolutely fantastic and very
I had a
educational
great time,
for us.
guys.
So and that
I had a
cigar,
great
by the
time.
way,
Thank you very much.
that St. Louis,
I-
St. Louis Rey
I want more.
Regios was great.
I want more.
Yeah.
I would like to get more.
So awesome, guys. Dan, thanks again, man. You can check out Dan's Cigar Salute on YouTube. Your email, Dan, do you mind sharing that with listeners that they can get in touch if they have any counterfeits?
Yeah, I can always be reached either on Instagram, cigar_salute. You can instant message me there. You can get at me via email, cigarsalute@gmail.com. Those are the two easiest ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome. And
And,
listeners can certainly always email us as well. We're glad to help. Feel free to reach out. Tell us, if you do find that you have a box of these cigars, certainly share it with Dan and us if you'd like. The more information that Dan has to complete this investigation and keep it going, the better,
Yeah. Anybody who might be listening to this, if you have purchased from gray market vendors in 2021 and 2022, I'd greatly appreciate it if you could take a look at your inventory and just check your warranty seals and your serial numbers for the defects that are covered in the Monty Fortuna Reddit post, which I believe is still pinned up there.
It is, and I'll put it. It's in the episode description of this episode, so listeners can just click on that. It'll open right to your post. You'll see my comments and all of our comments, all the Reddit folks going back and forth. That'll be there.
Very cool.
Because Greg Springer, I just want to shout him out real quick, because Greg is the one who saw that these fakes that I had talked about earlier in the year. He was the one who made the connection to Monty Fortuna. Greg and I have been working together on the issue with Reddit and whatnot. And he and I have been trying to collect as much data as possible from people. We're trying to get a snapshot of how the market actually looks right now. So it's not just Monty Fortuna that we want to know about, because we know about Monty Fortuna now, but we've started to collect evidence on 3 other retailers. Okay, I'll say that. I won't say who just yet, because we're just waiting to get as much evidence as possible. But 3 other retailers.
It's not good.
What are we doing? This is
not
good.
Is one of them out of Cyprus?
Oh, we know where you're going.
Don't say it.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh no!
All right, we'll table that for another day, guys. We'll table that for another day. All right, boys. Let's get back to optimism for a second. We had a great cigar tonight, a great conversation.
Fantastic.
An 8.8 for the Saint Luis Rey Regios. Dan, what a pleasure having you on again. Thank you so very much for coming on tonight. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure was all mine, gentlemen.
And like I said, like we said, check out Dan at Cigar Salute. And awesome. Dan, we'll see you next time, and we'll see everybody next week.
Keep smoking.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave us a rating and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. If you have any comments, questions, if you want to reach out, say hello, tell us what you're smoking, email us, loungelizardspod, P-O-D, that's loungelizardspod@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram at loungelizardspod. We really appreciate your time, and we'll see you next week.